I'm Caroline Bremner, Data Insight Specialist, and I'm joined today by Rebecca Armstrong, Head of Impact, to discuss today's key theme, equity. Bex, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Caroline. It's great to be here. As you know, destination equity is one of our key focus areas at the Travel Foundation. We've worked a lot in this space. We've researched on the area of equitable tourism and really what that means for destinations and communities.
I mean, yes, when we look at the size of tourism, it's one of the most significant economic forces in the world, valued at $10 trillion in 2025 and accounting for a significant 10.5% of global GDP. But as we know, the benefits aren't automatically shared. In emerging markets, for example, leakage can be as high as 50 to 80%, meaning that the majority of what visitors spend in a destination doesn't actually reach the local economy. So the question of equity, who actually benefits from tourism, is one of the most pressing challenges that we face in the sector.
That's absolutely right. And I think what our report really shows is that it isn't really the size of that tourism pie that matters, but how it's divided at the destination level. So we know that 1 in 10 jobs globally are in tourism. 80% plus of those businesses are SMEs, and 40% of the workforce in tourism are women. So there is that potential for tourism to really drive genuinely inclusive local economies. That potential is enormous, but it isn't realised automatically. As you said, it really needs to be intentional.
So what does it actually look like when it works properly? I mean, when we talk about an equitable destination, what does that look like in practice?
Yes, that's a really helpful question, because equity isn't just one aspect, it isn't just one thing, it shows up in different ways as we highlight in the report. So, of course, it does mean economic equity. That means local businesses and people having a fair share of the opportunities that tourism creates. But it also means managing natural resources fairly, for example. So communities aren't left bearing the costs of tourism's impact on their environment. It means making sure that local people are able to have fair access to amenities and public spaces that tourism can often privatise or price them out of, and also that they can afford to access and enjoy the opportunities of leisure and tourism in their own destination, that those things are not just for visitors. And it also means making sure that all communities and cultures, including minority groups, underrepresented groups, are fairly represented, fairly reflected in the story of that destination and how the destination shapes its offer. So our report also shows really how action in one of these areas can often deliver benefits across the others as well. It's a really holistic picture.
And the report highlights as well that leakage in emerging markets can be as high as 50 to 80% in places like the Caribbean. So that means that a huge proportion of tourism revenue never reaches the local economy. And a striking recent example that you shared with me, Bex, was that, for example, in Jamaica, the Ministry of Tourism has calculated that only around 40 cents in every dollar earned from tourism stays in the local country. So the minister himself has, or themselves has said that they want to plug the leakages by strengthening the linkages. So what that means is connecting farmers with hotels, building local supply chains and reducing the import bill. It shows that, even a destination like Jamaica earning $4.4 billion in tourism revenues is actively grappling with this challenge.
Yes, exactly. And that's why the mechanisms matter so much. That term leakage really refers to how much tourism spending leaves the destination economy. That can be through import costs, it can be through profits repatriated by international investors, it could be wages paid to workers brought in from elsewhere. So that inward investment and international businesses certainly have a role to play and a contribution to make in many destinations. But really that key is finding a healthy balance. And that will look different in every destination. But if they can find that healthy balance, that means that more value stays local and really benefits that wider community in the destination.
So what can destinations actually do about this?
So our Creating Equitable Destinations report identifies about 40 real-world mechanisms that we could see that destinations are already using to strike that balance. And these range from taxes and revenue sharing, business incubation, training for SMEs, things like licensing and zoning policies, and also crucially strengthening local supply chains. So we have 25 case studies in the report from around the world, showing how destinations are pulling these levers in practice to grow and distribute tourism's benefits in a more fair and equitable way.
And this work connects to something bigger, doesn't it? So at the Travel Foundation, the Where Next agenda sets out a global action agenda for tourism's climate transition. And one of its four big ideas is about requiring a fair deal for communities. So that's through equity-based KPIs, standards. But how does this all translate into practice?
So the idea behind the Where Next agenda on this point really is to create that consistent expectation that major tourism decisions, planning, investment deliver measurable local benefits. So not just looking at visitor numbers, but looking at things like the quality and fairness of jobs, how much spending and procurement stays local, whether communities genuinely have a voice in how tourism develops in their place. That's very much the direction of travel. And at the Travel Foundation, we support destinations and businesses to get there in practical ways, whether that's strengthening local supply chains, it might be supporting SMEs or building those fairer models that find that healthy balance we were talking about earlier.
So, well, that's great. Thank you, Bex. So we hope that you've enjoyed our latest Impact Insight Bites, where we've explored what equity really means in a tourism context. So why getting it right really matters so much for the destinations and the communities that depend on travel and tourism. So if you'd like to go deeper, links to our Creating Equitable Destinations report and the Where Next agenda are in the descriptions. So join us next time for a look at the most interesting and impactful insights to help navigate uncertainty for long-term business success. Thank you.